This is Trinity Storm, and you are watching third part of What If Naruto Became Fox Knight Guardian. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Now, wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Naruto saw the enemy in front of him fall as his claws cut the chest of the other shinobi. He had been fighting for 2 hours straight, and he was starting to feel it. He looked at the other ninjas around him. Many of the lower-ranking shinobi were starting to lose their balance because they were out of chakra and stamina. Hinata wiped the sweat off her forehead as she stood behind him. She had more energy than usual thanks to her new Hanyu DNA, but she was still getting used to it. For a short time, the wall was clear, but it wasn't free. The enemy's 4 trebuchets sent out a sudden barrage of rocks. Naruto watched as Tsunade, Lee, Guy, and Sakura used their superhuman strength to break some of the rocks. Others hit the top of the wall, and most of them missed the Konoha ninja. Some people got hurt by the shrapnel. Naruto let out a sigh and looked at Hinata. "We need to find those leaders. Have you found anything yet?" Hinata looked at the ground right away, her new jutsu straining. She gave up and sighed. "I can't find them. I don't even know where to look." She felt hopeless about her weakness until Naruto grabbed her and pulled her to look at him. "Don't give up, Hinata-chan. Keep trying, I know you can do it." Hinata slowly nodded, and when Tsunade came over, she went back to what she was doing. She stared at the 2 Hanyu with worry on her face. "We're in trouble. If it weren't for those stupid trebuchets, we could hold the wall. Do either of you think you could stop them?" Naruto gave them a look. He looked at the 300 or so ninja who were still waiting inside. "There might be a way, but it's dangerous, and there's a good chance I'll get caught or killed. If I can sneak down further along the wall, I can slip over, sneak around behind them, and take the trebuchets out. Then I have to get back, which is the hardest part." Hinata took his hand in hers. "I'll go with you because it will help you. Don't even think about disagreeing with me." Naruto saw the way she was looking at him and sighed. "Hinata-heim, I don't want to lose you." "No, you won't. I promise you that we'll either live together or die together." Naruto gave a nod and looked at Tsunade. "Keep them busy for 20 minutes, and I'll take care of the rest." Tsunade gave a nod and looked at the ballisti. "Kick it back at them." 2 ninjas stood next to the trebuchets and watched the battle from the ground. Kuro, who is in charge of Anbu for the Iwa shinobi, and Nezumi, who is in charge of strategy for Kumo, met. The attack on Konoha had been given to them to lead. Now that they were out of danger, they could watch the battle. They had sent 3 waves against the wall so far. Half of their ninja had rushed the wall. Most of them had died, and the few that were left had moved away. But they kept the Konoha shinobi busy and cut down the number of defenders. Now that they had set up their siege weapons, the constant barrage of rocks was keeping the enemy's head down. They were about to start their last attack. Nezumi was looking at her map when Kuro turned to her. "Well, now what? How long until we can attack?" Nezumi sighed and looked at Iwane, who wanted to do something. "Hold on, we're going to take the village. They can't stand up to us for long." Kuro groaned. "Okay, but I hate having to wait like this." The trebuchet farther away blew up all of a sudden. The ninjas who were working on it screamed in pain as parts of their bodies were ripped off by the explosion. When Kuro and Nezumi turned around, they saw a small movement near the second trebuchet. It went away, and then a few seconds later, the second siege weapon also went off. Now, the other ninjas were moving back and moving to guard the 3rd and 4th trebuchets. Nezumi quickly looked around in the woods, but she didn't see anything. What the heck was that? Naruto and Hinata crouched in the tops of some trees and watched what was going on down below. Naruto sighed when he saw that the 2 remaining trebuchets were getting a lot of attention. "Well, I got 2, but now there are too many for my invisibility genjutsu to work." Hinata looked around at the group and then stopped. She smiled a little. "Naruto-kun, I think I found them. They're the 2 ninjas standing near the 4th trebuchet. The guy in the Iwa Anbu outfit and the woman from Kumo." Naruto thought about both of them and nodded. "Well, it looks like it's time to introduce them all to the Fox Knight." He pulled his face mask up, pulled up his hood, and did the jutsu he was used to. He was with a dozen other Narutos who were all armed and ready. The first person looked at Hinata. "The clones will draw them away, and while the guards are distracted, we'll go after the leaders. Ready?" Hinata nodded, and Naruto sent his clones into battle as his clones. They charged into battle with roars and spooky fox howls. Cage fired another round of ice kunai from the wall, this time at a group of enemies who had cleared out a section of the trench and were hiding in it. 3 people were killed by ice weapons, and 4 more were hurt. When he turned around, he saw shadow clones coming out of the trees and making scary howls and battle cries. He laughed and shook his head. Kushina, I remember you doing something similar. It looks like your son is more like you than anyone thought. He turned and used an explosive tag on a kunai to kill the rest of the ninjas in the trench. Nezumi and Kuro watched as a dozen people in cloaks jumped into their group of ninjas. All of their katanas were drawn, and the claw blades were out of their sheaths. They were amazed by how well and quickly the clones could move. One clone parried an attack with his katana before spinning to his left and slashing the ninja in the throat with the claw blades on that side. Even with their skills, they were outnumbered by a large amount. 12 kunai were used to stab one of the clones, and 2 more were destroyed by being sucked into the ground. Nezumi and Kuro suddenly felt 2 chakra signatures moving toward them. When they turned around, they saw a second fox knight and a female Hanyu with dark hair coming toward them. As he charged Kuro, Naruto held out his katana to his right and yelled, "I've got this one. Get the other one, Hinata." Naruto cut up with his left claws, but Kuro backed up. Naruto spun to the right, and his sword came around to cut Kuro in the chest. Even though it was just a cut, it still scared Kuro. Naruto smirked behind his mask. "Is that all you've got? You're at least Anbu, so you should be able to dodge one little sword." Kuro had spent years learning to handle his feelings as well as he did now. He had trouble being patient, but other than that, no one had ever been able to get him mad. But this person was starting to bother him. "Try this. Earth-style, earth bombardment jutsu." A lot of heavy rocks were pulled out of the ground and thrown at the Fox Knight. He looked up at them with his sword in hand. "Kenjutsu art. Mirage blade slash," Naruto said, and his blade began to cut through the falling rocks in a way that was almost impossible to see. Nezumi and Hinata, who were straining with their locked kunai, looked over at the broken rocks falling around him. He stopped, and his blade was still shining and had no scratches or dents on it. Nezumi turned to Hinata. "That's quite a man. Maybe we can learn some of his tricks when he's dead. You're the only one who's going to die here. Naruto-kun still has to reach his goal, and I'll make sure he does." As they went their separate ways, the 2 women threw their kunai at each other. Nezumi began Handus GNS for a ninjutsu. Lightning style, static spread jutsu. Several bolts of lightning shot out from her fingers. Hinata tried to move to the side, but a bolt hit her jacket and set it on fire. Before getting into her taijutsu stance, the Hyuga Hanyu tore it off and threw it away. She charged forward, and Nezumi had to dodge her Juken attack. But Hinata changed into a wide-ranging kick that knocked the Kumo shinobi to the ground.
Hinata was about to attack when Nezumi turned around and hit Hinata with her feet.
Kuro had Naruto's katana locked with 2 kunai. He tried to punch with his left hand, claws out, but Koru flipped over him. Naruto turned around, wheezing. He could not go on like this forever. Even though he was a Hanyu of Kyuubi, he was still only human in some ways. Hinata was the same way, and it was even worse for her because she had less stamina than Naruto. They had to get this done quickly. Naruto smashed his sword into the ground and began making signs with his hands. When he was done, he bit his thumb and slammed his hand into the ground while yelling, summoning jutsu. 2 foxes came out of a puff of smoke. One had 4 red tails and red fur. The other had 3 blue tails. They faced Naruto and bowed to him. "What do you want us to do?" Naruto gave both of them a nod. "I need you to transform and help us in battle. Ken, you help me. Yari, go to Hinata and help her as much as you can." Ken nodded and jumped into the air, turning into a second katana that looked like Kitsune no Hogosha except for the fox head at the base of the hilt. Naruto used his left hand to grab the blade. He was ready for both of them. Yari ran over to where Hinata was fighting Nezumi. When Yari came up, Hinata was able to push Nezumi back. "Naruto-sama sent me to help you. Please believe me." The female fox turned into a long blue spear with a fox head below the blade. Hinata grabbed the spear with some trepidation, and all of a sudden she felt like she wasn't alone. "I am Yari, one of the demon fox weapons. My fellow summons and I turn into weapons to help the one we serve. I know you only know how to use kunai and shuriken, so please trust me and let me show you how to use other weapons. Hinata said, yes, and let the presence into her mind. She felt as if the spear in her hand had always been there. She watched as Nezumi ran forward and used the spear pull to block the kunai. She suddenly found herself moving in ways she had never practiced for battle. She tried to stab Nezumi, but the blade was blocked. She then spun around and slammed the spear blade down. Yari's spear fighting style will be influenced by how Sung Mina fought in Soul Calibur 2. Nezumi just barely got out of the way before the spear blade hit the ground. Hinata quickly pulled the spear back and held it out in front of her. She was trying to figure out what she was doing in her head. Nezumi ran forward while drawing a second kunai behind his back. When Hinata blocked the first attack, the second kunai flashed and cut Hinata's left arm open. She stepped back and held the cut for a few seconds. When she took her hand away, the wound was already starting to close. What? How can you do that? Naruto-kun gave me a great gift. He saved my life and made me stronger than I was before. Hinata was readying the spear when Yari put an image in her mind. Hinata nodded. It's time to end this. Yarijutsu art. Gale Barrage. Hinata put chakra into the spear and started spinning it on one side of her, then the other. As the spear spun back and forth, the chakra got stronger and then flew away like wind blades that cut through the air. Namuzi tried to get away, but he couldn't do it quickly enough. She was cut by the chakra blades, which pushed her back against a tree. She fell to the ground, and her many wounds caused her to bleed to death. Hinata put her head in a bow. I'm sorry, but I'll protect my home and the people I care about most. Kuro's right shoulder was cut open by Naruto's katana. This made the Anbu captain back away. Naruto held one sword in front of him and the other over his head. Kuro was scared and looked at him, wondering where the other ninjas were. They should have helped him already. He turned around and saw that his men were running away, being chased by swarms of Suna ninjas. Gaara, the cage, was in front of them, trapping and crushing ninjas in his sand. When Kuro looked back at Naruto, the boy behind the mask was smiling. It's over. Surrender, try to run, or die fighting. It doesn't matter to me. Kuro gave him a mean look. At least I'll kill you. He rushed forward, ready to give one last blow. Naruto gave a head shake. Wrong answer. Kitsune Kenjutsu art. Twin star slash. Naruto said, and then he attacked, slashing his opponent with his blades. He stopped there, and then his body split into 2 stars made of 10 slashes. Naruto slowly bowed to the body of his enemy and then cleaned both of his swords. It changed back into the 4-tailed fox with a nod to the one sword. Hinata's spear changed back, too. Before leaving, the 2 foxes bowed to Naruto and Hinata. Naruto sat down next to a tree and leaned back against it as he breathed heavily. Hinata went over and sat down beside him. The 2 people looked at each other, smiled, and grabbed hands. Naruto bent down and kissed Hinata on the lips. Out there, you did a great job. Hinata laughed as Naruto wrapped his tail around hers. They sat there and kissed for a few minutes before 3 Suna ninjas came over. Naruto looked up and saw Temari laughing, Kankuro smiling at them in a sexual way, and Gaara watching them with the same neutral look on his face that he always had. Naruto blushed and smiled in an awkward way. The back of his head was rubbed. Hey guys, have you met my girlfriend yet? Gaara gave a nod. No, I'm Gaara, and this is my brother Kankuro and my sister Temari. I'm the cage of Suna. Hinata put her head in a bow. My name is Hinata, and I used to be a Hyuga. It's a pleasure to meet you, Gaara-sama. Naruto helped her get up, then turned back to the former Jinchuriki of Shukaku. I'm glad you guys got here when you did, because I don't think we would have been able to get out of this alive. Gaara gave a shoulder shrug. I owed both Konoha and you my life, and I will do anything I can to pay that back. Tsunade and a few of her ninjas came up behind them. She bowed to Gaara, and he did the same thing back. Thank you for helping. You saved a lot of lives, and we owe you a lot. You two did a great job out there. Well done. Naruto and Hinata both bowed to show that they were listening. Tsunade turned to face the wall and look along it. There was a lot of damage to several parts. She sighed when she saw a Konoha ninja lying on the ground near the base of the wall. The wounded have already been taken to the hospital, so we need to start collecting the dead. With a nod, they went off to find the bodies of their fallen friends. Hinata kept going, but Naruto stopped her for a moment and put his hands on her face. "Are you okay?" he asked with worry on his face. Hinata nodded. I'm a little shocked by how many lives I've taken. I know it was to protect Konoha, but I hate killing. He kissed the top of her head. "It's okay. You have a good heart, which is one of the many things I love about you. Hinata-heim, don't be ashamed of who you are. If you can, spare an enemy's life, unless they really don't deserve it. But if you do kill someone, do it with honor." Hinata gave him a nod and moved closer to him. He gave her a hug to make her feel better. She finally moved away and smiled. "Thank you, Naruto-kun. You always know just what to say to make me feel better." Naruto smiled. "Isn't that what I should do? Come on, let's get to work." They moved on to get rid of the dead bodies in the field. Hiyashi looked at the two Hanyu as they moved across the field. He had his Hyuga watch the fight, and what they told him kept backing up what he had learned in Naruto's apartment. She has become more brave, which has made her skills better. Even more so because of her Hanyu powers. Then there's Dujutsu. Dokushogun. It would be a great addition to the Hyuga family. Hiyashi thought as he looked up at the sky. She has to come back. She will help and strengthen the clan. But she will never go back to the clan as long as Namikaze is around. We have to deal with him if we want to make the clan stronger. But we have to be quiet. He looked at the two Hyugas who were close by. Go back to the clan and make sure the elders are ready to meet when I get there. Yes, Hiyashi-sama. Then the two went away. Hiyashi went back and turned to look at Naruto and Hinata. We will do well. And you, demon scum, will not stop us. The next day, services were held to remember those who had died protecting the village. 22 of the ninja had been killed, and 5 more had been hurt so badly that they couldn't walk again. Tradition says that all of the shinobi and those who were close to the person who died paid their last respects. Naruto walked up quietly to the dais with the pictures of the dead, bowed his head, and lowered his tail and ears. Hinata and Kage stood next to him as their own way of showing respect. As soon as they were done, they got up and walked away. Naruto held Hinata's hand as they prayed in silence for those who had lost family members. When the ceremony was over, they walked away with Kage following behind. Hinata held Naruto's arm in her hands. When people found out that the two had helped defend the village, they bowed out of respect. Naruto looked at the girl he was dating. Hinata-chan, I was wondering if you'd let me train you. As Naruto talked, Hinata looked up. I could teach you some things, if you want me to, besides how to fully understand and use your Hanyu powers. I can understand if you don't want me to, though. Hinata smiled and gave a small nod. Naruto-kun, I'd love it if you trained me, but what about my friends? Naruto thought for a second and then gave a shrug. Well, we could train with them, before or after them. I wasn't asking you to stop working with them. Hinata smiled and put her arm around his. Let's talk to them, because I'm sure they'd also like to train with you. As Kage watched the happy couple, he smiled. After learning about the boy's life, he was glad to see that his student's son was so happy. I wish you could see your son, Kushina. He looks genuinely happy. Kage sighed because he wanted to see his old student. The elders met again in the meeting room of the Hyuga main house. Hiyashi had told them what he knew about Hinata and suggested a way to get her back into the clan. Now, they were ready to let him know what they thought. Hiyashi-sama, we've decided to go along with your plan. But if it doesn't work out, we'll say we didn't know what you were up to. Do you agree? Hiyashi nodded. He nodded and said, I understand. Thank you. He then got up and left. He was happy. Very well. It's time to stop worrying that someone will take the Hyuga's rightful place as Konoha's strongest clan. Soon, you will be gone, you little demon brat. It was getting dark in Konoha. Ninjas from Konoha and Suna had been working hard all day to fix the damaged part of the wall. Now, most of them went back home, but some stayed to keep an eye out for more danger. Tsunade put down the pen she had been using to write and looked at the two papers in front of her. Both of them were rules that Iwa and Kumo agreed to when they asked for a stop to the fighting right away. She had already sent letters to the daimyo of the Land of Fire and other allies of Konoha. With them on her side, Tsunade thought it might be easier to deal with Iwa and Kumo. She thought that it was especially true with Naruto and Hinata. The two Hanyu did a great job destroying the enemy's trebuchets and killing their leaders. She sat back and waited for the ink to dry on the papers. She reached down and took out one of the many sake bottles she had hidden. As she drank from it, she smiled. Looks like things are looking up. Hiyashi was standing on a roof near where Namikaze lived. The only light was in the living room, where Hiyashi knew Naruto was sitting because he could see him with his Byakugan. He looked at the three people near him. You already know what to do. Yes, Hiyashi-sama. They left as Hiyashi turned around to look at the apartment. Time has come. Naruto smiled as he finished making the thing he was working on. He put it in his weapons pouch and put away the tools he was using to write. He yawned and stretched as he stood up. Hinata had already gone to bed, and Naruto was about to do the same when there was a knock on the door. As he went to answer it, he sighed. As he opened the door, he said to himself, this better be good. He was shocked by what he saw. What are you doing here, Sakura? Tsunade-sensei needs you, Naruto. It's an emergency. Sakura grabbed him and pulled him out into the hall. Naruto hit her hand away from him. All right. Give me a chance to get my stuff. He wrapped his cloak around his shoulders, grabbed his sword, gloves, and face mask, and put them on as they left. As they left the building, Naruto pulled his sword out of its sheath. You don't have to act like Sakura anymore. What do you mean? I'm Sakura, of course. No, because if Ba-chan needed me in an emergency, she would have sent an Anbu or someone else who could teleport to my apartment. She wouldn't send a Chunin who would have to run. Naruto's left hand came out of nowhere and hit Sakura in the face. As she fell back, a cloud of smoke surrounded her and she was replaced by a Hyuga. He fell on his back, and then there were two more right next to him. Naruto let out a deep sigh of anger. I knew it wasn't over. Look, can we just drop this? I don't want to hurt any shinobi in this village, even if they are attacking me. The middle Hyuga stood up. Well, we don't have any trouble killing you, you filthy demon. Naruto groaned. Well, that's 5 years of hard labor for you. Want to go farther? The three Hyugas ran toward the enemy. Naruto put his katana back in its sheath and moved into a defensive position while making his favorite hand sign. Shadow Clone Jutsu. 2 shadow clones appeared, and all 3 of them took on a Hyuga. The first Hyuga tried to hit Naruto in the heart with a Juken, but it was blocked. Naruto slammed his fist so hard into the Hyuga's stomach that the stomach wall burst, letting stomach acid flow into the man's body and eat his organs. Before his neck broke, he fell down and screamed in pain. The second Hyuga was killed by a blow to the head that Naruto dodged. As he did this, the clone took the claws out of his gloves and cut the man's hamstrings, causing him to fall to his knees. He then stabbed the man in the chest, killing him. The real Naruto avoided the Juken attacks that the middle Hyuga threw at his head. The Hyuga dropped into place for one of the Hyuga's most important offensive moves. 8 trigrams, 64 palms. You are in my range for divination. But just before he hit, Naruto finished 3 hand signs. Tiger, Ox, Tiger. Clear the shield jutsu. As the Hyuga attacked, he was stopped an inch from hitting Naruto. The Hyuga also stopped the other attacks, and they moved back. What's this jutsu? Don't worry about it, Naruto said. Now get ready to find your friends in the afterlife. With that, he made another set of hand signs. Wind style, suffocation jutsu. All of a sudden, the Hyuga was surrounded by air that was so thick he couldn't breathe. He hit the ground and grabbed his throat as his face turned purple. After a few seconds, his brain shut down and he fell over. Naruto held the jutsu for another minute, until he knew it was done. As his clones died, he looked at the 3 bodies. I'm sorry, I wouldn't have killed you. Nei-chan would have killed you in a much more painful way. So will I. When Naruto turned around, Hiyashi was swinging a kunai at him. Naruto could hardly move, so the kunai hit him in the shoulder instead of the heart. Hiyashi fell back when Naruto hit him with an open palm strike. He reached up and pulled out the kunai, then used his fist to break it in half. As Hiyashi took his place, the wound closed up. Naruto gave a head shake. Hiyashi, this has to stop. You are putting the village and your own clan in danger by attacking and trying to kill me over and over again. I will show you mercy one more time. Leave, and I won't say anything. No, I'll kill you right here, you dirty demon. Then I'll take Hinata away, and she'll give birth to a new race of Hyuga that will rule Konoha. This is the Hyuga clan's destiny. He stood up straight. The purpose of all the clans is to serve and protect the village, not to become its tyrants. For the good of Konoha, I will stop you even if I have to kill you. Just try, demon scum. Hiyashi rushed forward again and hit with his left hand. Naruto leaned to the right, and the Jukin attack came very close to hitting him in the face. He hit Hiyashi in the chest with his right hand, which knocked the Hyuga's head back again. But Hiyashi threw a kunai at Naruto this time. He dove and caught the kunai with his tail, then threw it away. Hiyashi was able to avoid it, and he went back to his Jukin position. Naruto stood still and watched Hiyashi while he waited. Hiyashi threw a few smoke bombs at them all of a sudden, covering them both. He rushed forward, used his Byakugan, and hit Naruto, who couldn't see him. When his fist hit Naruto in the head, it killed his brain. All of a sudden, that Naruto vanished in a cloud of smoke. Hiyashi used his Byakugan to look around, and he saw Naruto on a nearby roof. Naruto's hands were shaped like a ram. Grass style, dandelion bomb jutsu. Hiyashi laughed as hundreds of dandelion heads appeared in the air above him. It's sad that you want to hurt me with flowers. Even a simple flower can be more than it seems, said Hiyashi. Give up or die. Naruto used the jutsu when Hiyashi pulled out another kunai. The dandelions all fell at once, and as they did, their petals exploded into a shower. But the petals had become hard and pointed. Hiyashi was cut in many places, but he was able to use the rotation to deflect the rest of the attacks. As Naruto slowed down, he reached into the pouch that held his weapons and pulled out a few kunai. But these were the kunai with 3 points that his father had used. He threw them around Hiyashi and then finished the hand signs for a second jutsu. Grass style, rose sword jutsu. 100 roses grew from the ground and twisted themselves into a blade. Naruto used the Hiraishin jutsu that his father taught him and vanished in a flash of gold. When Hiyashi stopped spinning, Naruto used the rose sword to hit him. Hiyashi's arm was torn up by the rose's thorns, which left dozens of cuts and made the arm completely useless. Hiyashi wailed in pain and held his wound. Naruto kept attacking, ripping Hiyashi all over with the thorns, until he was right in front of Hiyashi. The head of the Hyuga looked up at the Hanyu in front of him. What are these jutsu? How can you control plants like this? How can you do the Hiraishin so quickly? The 9 Bijus are still living on this planet. They have the power to both make and break things. With Kyuubi, I can call on plants to help me, but not as well as with some of the other Bijus. This rose-shaped blade rips flesh instead of cutting it. It also releases a poison that is now seeping into your body. You will die in a few minutes. The Hiraishin is easy to figure out if you know what to look for. Hiyashi fell to the ground, and Naruto got down on his knees next to him. Now is your chance to make things right, Hiyashi. Tell me if this is the last time your family will try to help you or if they will try again. Hiyashi looked up at him with eyes that were getting dim. There won't be another. My plan was our best chance. If you can beat me, you are too strong for all of us. Naruto nodded. I will show proof that you and those 3 were killed by rogue ninjas. I will also say that I came upon the battle, killed the enemies, and burned their bodies. Your clan will not be blamed for what happened here. Rest now, Hiyashi, and let death take you. Hiyashi's head fell to the ground, and he fell down. After a minute, he stopped breathing. Naruto's head dropped. Hinata. Forgive me. The next day, word got out that Lord Hiyashi Hyuga and 3 members of his clan had been caught by rogue ninjas and killed. Naruto Namikaze had killed the enemies and taken the Hyuga's bodies to the morgue. Almost everyone thought it was true. Only Naruto and the elder Hyuga knew the truth. Naruto couldn't keep the truth from Hinata, so he told her what happened and asked her to forgive him. She just gave him a hug and told him it was okay and that she was glad he was safe. The 4 Hyugas were given a memorial service, and then they were burned so that their Byakugans wouldn't fall into the hands of a grave robber. Hinata and Naruto both went to the funeral. Even though the Hyuga elders barely looked at them, Naruto could tell they were very angry about what had happened. Hanabi and Neji went over to Hinata, and the three of them watched as their father or uncle's body was burned. Hanabi just stood there and looked. Was he ever a good father, Nei-chan? Hinata looked at her little sister and then shook her head slowly. No, Imouto. I think he cared more about the position of the clan than about his family. Hanabi slowly nodded. She looked at the old people. What do you think will happen now? Neji sighed. The elders will run the clan until a new heir is found or you get old enough, Hanabi-sama. I fear that the Hyuga clan may face hard times in the future. Hanabi looked at her cousin slowly. When I become heiress, I will bring light to our clan. Nei-chan has the right idea for the Hyugas, but I will be the one to bring the two branches together. I promise. Naruto nodded. I think she can. Hanabi, I'll be there for you. If you ever need anything, just let me know. Hanabi nodded. He's a good catch, Nei-chan. You should keep him. Hinata smiled as she held Naruto's hands and their tails wrapped around each other. As long as he wants me, I will. Naruto got close to her and said something in her ear. Hinaheim, until the end of time and beyond. Naruto and Hinata walked back to their apartment when the funeral was over. As Naruto looked at Hinata, he let out a sigh. So, what do you want to do now? We could start training or wait until tomorrow. Hinata took a moment to think, and then she nodded her head. Training sounds good. I want to get as strong as I can so we can fight well as a team. Naruto nodded. Okay, but know that I won't be easy on you. Hinata was happy and smiled. I wouldn't expect anything less. The two got back home quickly, changed, got their gear together, and went to training ground number 5. Naruto became a genin on this training ground, and he and Hinata talked there before his fight with Neji. Both of them felt very strongly about it. Naruto put his weapons down next to him and looked at Hinata. First, we need to improve your physical strength, speed, and endurance. They are better now because of your transformation, but not as good as they could be. So let's get to work. The next 3 hours, they ran, did sit-ups, push-ups, and any other exercise that would help them get stronger and last longer. Naruto made Hinata gain weight so that she could run faster. When they were done, Naruto told her to sit down while he told her about some of the things she could do because she was a Hanyu. Because you and I are Hanyu from Kyuubi's DNA, we get a number of useful jutsus. You've already seen one of them, the fox weapon summons. With this jutsu, you can summon one or more foxes that can turn into weapons. The hand seals are ox, monkey, ram, tiger, dragon, and then this one for fox. Naruto made a fist with his left hand and put it on the palm of his right hand. His right pinky and ring finger were bent over his left hand's knuckles, while his middle and index fingers were pointed up. Answer. Think of half dog and half rat or tiger. I don't know what the real fox hand sign would be, so I made one up. Then you use blood to call up whoever you want. You've already met Yari, spear, and Ken, sword. Ida, bow, and Ryu, axe, will also help you in battle. Naruto did the hand signs, bit his thumb to get blood, and slammed his hand down. 4 foxes came out of a puff of smoke. Ken and Yari bowed to Hinata, but a black fox with 2 tails and a brown fox with only 1 tail just nodded their heads. Naruto showed them where to go. Ryu has 2 tails, and Ida is the other one. Today, we'll start learning how to use them, right? As soon as Hinata nodded, Naruto let Ryu and Ida go, but he kept Ken and Yari. Right now, Yari is the one you know best, so you should train with her first. Yari bowed to Hinata once more. It's a pleasure to help you again, ma'am. Hinata did a bow. The honor is all mine, Yari-san. Ken changed into a sword, and Yari changed into a spear. Naruto picked him up and looked at Hinata, who was picking up Yari. During the battle, Yari was guiding your body in combat. Unfortunately, this isn't as good as you being able to fight yourself, because Yari is limited by her own reaction time. Let Yari's knowledge flow through your mind, and remember her techniques, moves, and stances. Hinata said, yes, and then shut her eyes. She stood there with her tail and ears moving for a full minute. She then opened her eyes and got into her fighting position. Naruto nodded. Great. You're getting it faster than I did. Naruto walked over, adjusted her stance, and then stepped back while holding Ken ready. Since we're practicing, the edges of Yari and Ken's blades are dull, but they can still break bones with enough force, so be careful. Hinata nodded, then turned around quickly, making the spear blade go in a full circle. Naruto moved back, and the blade barely missed him. He leaned back up and kept going, falling into a forward roll and stabbing forward as he got up. Hinata jumped back and put her arms around Yari to protect her. Naruto looked at her and slowly moved around her in a circle. Hinata followed him, and she watched every step he took. He slashed down at her as he suddenly lunged forward. She used her spear to push his attack to the side, which made him lose his balance. She quickly hit him with the spear's shaft, which knocked him over. Hinata ran after him, but he turned it into a roll and jumped up. She stabbed forward, but Naruto deflected the attack up and to the side while ducking down in the opposite direction. He quickly got past her defenses, and Ken tickled her throat while Naruto held the sword there. Naruto's eyes lit up with awe. Not bad for your first time. Just be careful not to charge your enemies so quickly. The spear is good for keeping enemies at a distance, but it's pretty weak in close quarters like this. Hinata nodded. She blushed because she and Naruto were so close. When Naruto saw, he moved Ken out of the way, pulled her close, and kissed her. He moved away from her, smiling. Have I told you how much I love your blushes? Hinata smiled. You may have talked about them in the past. Naruto smiled and then took Ken back in his arms. Right, it's time to get back to work. They kept training, and after a few hours, Hinata could fight Naruto for almost half an hour without getting hurt. As Ken and Yari went back to their summoning realm, Naruto gave Hinata a hug and told her how proud he was of her. You did great, Hinata-chan. It's amazing how quickly you learned how to fight with Yari. Hinata just smiled and got red in the face when he praised her. It was something she hadn't done before. Her father had always been hard on her and never thought that her best was good enough. Shino, Kiba, and Kurenai had praised her, but they didn't do it that often because she didn't do much that stood out. But Naruto praised her for even the smallest things she did well and gave her a lot of support. She was being washed clean of all the years of being told she was weak and not worth much. Naruto smiled and stuck his arm out. I think we should go celebrate. Can I take my lady home so we can change and go out for a night on the town? Hinata nodded. Yes, please, kind sir, Hinata said. They both laughed, and then Hinata took his arm and led him back home. In AIM, the Akatsuki member Tobi seemed to be wandering around without a plan. In reality, he was on his way to Pain's room, and his real name was Madara Uchiha, one of the people who helped start Konoha. He went into Pain's room, where the person who used Rinnegan was watching the rainfall on his home country. What is it, Madara-sama? Madara came over and stood by him. Itachi is dead, killed while fighting Sasuke. Pain looked him in the eye. So, the powerful Itachi lost to his younger brother? What about Sasuke? I brought him and his team into the Akatsuki. They are getting ready to go after the Haichibi in Kumo right now. I heard that they lost to Konoha, just like Iwa did, and I also heard something else. As Pain talked, Madara looked at him. I heard that the Iwa and Kumo forces were mostly defeated by a pair of Hanyu, Kitsune Hanyu. It seems that Naruto is no longer just the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. Madara sighed. This changes our plans. Getting a Biju out of its container is easy, but getting it out of a Jinchuriki is much harder and more complicated. I want you and Konan to personally watch over his capture. Pain nodded. We'll leave in the morning, and Naruto and I will be back in a week. Be careful. I've heard rumors that Naruto may not be what he seems to be. Pain nodded as Madara left. Madara thought about what he had learned as he stood outside the room. If Naruto is a Hanyu, then he is the Fox Knight, who is a mystery. But I worry about this second Hanyu. I don't think I'm strong enough to fight two Hanyu, especially if they are well trained. Even more so, Naruto Uzumaki, if the rumors about you are true. Sasuke and Team Taka, Hawk, left the secret Akatsuki base where they had been training and resting. He was thinking about a lot of things. His world was shattered when he found out the truth about Itachi, Konoha, and Naruto. Now, he would build a new one. He would honor the memory of his brother and his clan by destroying those who were really to blame for the Uchiha massacre. When it comes to Naruto, Sasuke would like to go after him himself. That dumb Dobi wasn't even stronger than me. The only thing that made him stronger was the power of the Kyuubi. He is nothing without it. And I'll show you. Naruto Uzumaki, I will find you and crush you. Hiashi's funeral had been a week ago. Naruto and Hinata trained together for at least 5 hours a day, every day of the week. Hinata was tired and happy because she had also been training with her own team. Already, the training with Naruto was paying off. Naruto started to teach her some grass-style jutsu that she could use as a Hanyu after she mastered the fox weapon summoning jutsu. She also noticed that her strength, speed, and chakra had grown a little bit. Even her teammates saw. They were busy practicing as a group. Kurenai was watching them and stopped them when she saw Hinata moving faster than before. That was really good, all of you. Hinata, you're doing better than you were before. Care to explain? Hinata said, yes, as she took off her jacket. Since Naruto started training to become a Hanyu, she has slowly started to feel better about herself and has worn her jacket less and less. Kiba's eyes got a little bigger when he saw Hinata without her jacket and then when he saw the weights on her arms that had been hidden by the jacket. Kurenai-sensei, it's my training with Naruto. He's been teaching me how to use my powers as a Hanyu and helping me improve my overall skills. I think the training is helping me a lot. Kiba looked at the weights and saw that each one was 50 pounds. I guess I'm getting used to them. Naruto-kun says I should be able to move on to the next set sometime next week. Kurenai nodded. I think I'd like to watch you train because it might give me an idea of what you can do. No problem, Naruto said as he fell out of a nearby tree, scaring Kiba and Akamaru. Where the heck did you come from, Naruto? Naruto smiled as he kissed Hinata on the cheek. I came to check on my Hime and make sure she wasn't pushing herself too hard. She'll need all her strength for today's training. She kissed him back on the lips, and they both wiggled their tails in happiness. Kurenai nodded. There's not much else we can do today, so why don't you two start training? We'll all watch. Naruto smiled as he led Hinata over to a clear area of the training field where Team Kurenai had been practicing. Watch? Heck, join in. We could use the company. Shino and Kiba joined them with a look of worry on their faces. Naruto led them in stretches, laps around the fields, and other exercises to get them in shape. Shino and Kiba fell to the ground from exhaustion, but Hinata just lightly panted. After that, Naruto and Hinata fought each other in taijutsu, and their speed and agility amazed everyone who watched. When they were finished, Naruto smiled and told Hinata to sit down. Okay, normally we would be sparring with Yari and Ken or working on your new jutsu, but I remembered something I should have taught you first because it would help your training. Naruto made a shadow copy of himself. I'm going to teach you how to do the shadow clone jutsu. Hinata's eyes got really big. Why do you use the shadow clone jutsu? Naruto looked over at Kiba. Why don't you take the clone over to those trees and play rock, paper, scissors with them? Kiba thought he was crazy, but did what Naruto told him to do. After a few seconds, Naruto stiffened, and when Kiba came back, he smiled. I beat you up with paper, didn't I? Kiba was shocked by what he saw. Yeah, you did. How did you know? Kurenai nodded. That's impressive, Naruto. The shadow clone jutsu is not only good for giving a numerical advantage in battle, but it's also a great way to scout and train. When a shadow clone is destroyed, everything it has learned and experienced is passed back to the original. Naruto nodded. That's right. I didn't know about it until Kage told me about it while we were training. He knew about the technique, even though he couldn't use it. There are downsides, like the mental fatigue you get when the clone is destroyed. Too many of them being destroyed can make you faint, but that's not usually a problem unless you summon hundreds of them. Naruto told Hinata to get back on her feet. So, I'll show you how to do it, so you can learn it faster. Okay? Hinata eagerly nodded, and Naruto gave her a smile. Okay, do the modified ox hand sign first, and then focus on releasing your chakra into your clones. Don't do too much. Hinata nodded and made the sign with her hand. With a pop, a clone of Hinata that looked sickly was sitting on the ground. Hinata looked at it and felt sad, so she let go of the jutsu. The boy smiled at her. Don't worry, I finally got it after a few hours. Just add more chakra this time. Be careful, but don't be cheap either. Hinata said, yes, and tried again, and again, and again. By the time she tried for the fourth time, the clone was an exact copy. See? You did it. Naruto told Hinata and her clone as he hugged them, making them both laugh. Shino and Kurenai clapped their hands, and Kiba added his own shout of praise. The two Hinatas were put down by Naruto. Okay, Now let's see if you can do it again. Hinata was able to make 5 clones by the end of the second hour. She was out of breath, but she was happy. Naruto nodded in approval. I'd say you've got it down. Now, keep practicing until you can make a lot of them easily. For now, let's use these clones. The 6 Hinatas nodded and started training right away. 2 of them worked on fighting with Yari and Ken, while the other 4 each practiced a different grass-style jutsu. Her teammates and sensei were amazed as the Hinatas did a number of moves they didn't know how to do, and 2 of them fought furiously with everything they knew and had. After a few hours, all of the clones disappeared, leaving Hinata standing there, heavily breathing. Naruto walked over to her and gave her a hug and a kiss on the lips. You did a great job, Hinata-chan. But I think you deserve a long break. Hinata only gave a weak nod, so Naruto picked her up. She put her arms around his neck and nodded to the other members of Team Kurenai. Then Naruto disappeared in a flash of gold. He showed up again outside the house he and Hinata shared, where he had hidden a Hiraishin seal. Naruto carried her up the stairs to their apartment, where he was able to unlock and open the door. He put Hinata on the couch, locked the door, and got her a drink of water. Naruto took out a book he had found in his parents' room as she took small sips. I thought this book about the history of the Namikaze family might be interesting to you. As Naruto opened the book, Hinata sat up and moved closer to him. He smiled at her from behind, then turned back to the book. The first Namikaze were a family of skilled samurai who came to the village when their old home was destroyed. The Showdown accepted their help and put them in charge of protecting Konoha. Over time, the single members of the family married shinobi, and the Namikaze, by combining the skills of samurai and ninja, were able to make great ninja warriors. Hinata saw that Naruto had tears in his eyes when he smiled at her again. He laughed as he got rid of them. It's funny. A few weeks ago, I was alone and thought I was a monster. I didn't know anything about my family or my past. Now, I have an amazing girlfriend, and I've found out that I come from a long line of great shinobi. Hinata hugged Naruto and snuggled up against his neck. And you'll be the best of them all. You'll be the rebirth of the Namikaze as a ninja clan, and I'll help you as long as you want me to. Turning so he was facing Hinata, Naruto hugged her back and held her close. Thank you. You don't know how much that means to me. He smiled at her and then kissed her on the lips. They kissed for a few minutes, switching between quick, sweet kisses and kisses that were more passionate. Urgent knocking came at the door all of a sudden. Naruto swore to himself, and Hinata groaned in anger. When Naruto went to the door and opened it, the Ambu with the bear mask was there. Naruto, Tsunade-sama needs you and Hinata to be there right away. Naruto nodded and looked at Hinata, who was already up and getting her ninja gear. Naruto and Hinata stood in front of the Godam Hokage a few minutes later. Tsunade took a look at them both. I have some bad news. We have confirmed reports of Akatsuki movement in the Land of Fire. The immortal brothers of the Akatsuki, Hidan and Kakuzu, have been named. Naruto took a look at the papers that were given to him. Hidan is a follower of Jashin, and he has no techniques other than immortality and a kind of voodoo ritual. Kakuzu is also immortal because he takes an opponent's heart, so he has multiple hearts and multiple styles of jutsu. Kyuubi has heard about Jashin followers. They are almost impossible to kill, but I and him might find a way. Tsunade nodded. That's why I asked you to come here. I want you to come up with a plan to beat them, and then I'll send in a team to do it. Naruto gave a head shake. It's not that easy. You'd need 2 teams of ninjas and at least 1 S-ranked, high-destruction jutsu to take care of them. I'm the only ninja in Konoha with that kind of jutsu, and Hiraishin would help me tear these guys to pieces. Tsunade gave a sigh. Naruto, it's Akatsuki. I know you're a lot stronger than the last time you fought them, but we can't risk you getting captured. Naruto looked at her face. Ba-chan, I couldn't live with myself if a Konoha ninja died because of a problem I caused. I should be the one to deal with Akatsuki, not alone, but I should still face them. Hinata put in her own ideas. Tsunade-sama, almost no one else is better equipped to deal with them. You, Jiraiya, Naruto, and maybe even me, when I've had more training, are the only ones strong enough. We must do everything we can to get rid of this threat while minimizing our own losses. Tsunade gave a sigh. Fine. Naruto, you and Hinata will leave to deal with the threat. Who else is going? Naruto took a moment to think. I think Team Asuma and Team Kakashi could do it. I know the shadow jutsu of the Nara, my Rasengan, and Kakashi's Chidori will help make this easier. Tsunade nodded. I want both teams to meet at the South Gate at 6 a.m. tomorrow. Naruto, you are in charge of the overall strategy, but Kakashi and Asuma are in charge of everything else. Got it? Naruto nodded. Right. Don't worry, Nei-chan. I promise I'll bring everyone back safe and sound. Tsunade smiled. Okay, but don't forget to bring yourself back, too. Naruto nodded, and then he and Hinata left. The look on Tsunade's face changed. Otouto, please be careful out there. The next morning, as the sun was just coming up, Naruto and Hinata waited near the south gate. Naruto was wearing his Fox Knight outfit, and Hinata had changed the way she looked. She still wore the tank top, fishnet shirt, and black capris. But now she was wearing a cloak that was the same color as her hair. She also wore a bandana of the same color around the bottom of her face. It had a fox's face on it, so it looked like her mouth was like a fox's when she smiled. Naruto told her that it made her look tougher. Hinata had kissed him in response, and then she had pulled the face mask back up. Naruto could see Asuma, Ino, Choji, and Shikamaru coming from afar. Naruto gave Hinata a nod, and she pulled up the hood of her cloak to hide her hair and eyes. Team Asuma came up to Naruto and gave him a nod. Asuma looked at the person next to him who was wearing a cloak. Hey Naruto, where is Hinata? Wasn't she also supposed to be on this mission? I'm wondering the same thing, said Kakashi. Kakashi, Sakura, and Sai also showed up on time, which was a surprise. Both Naruto and his friend in the cloak laughed, which made everyone happy except for Shikamaru. Naruto laughed and shook his head. Is she really that different? Who else could this be? Hinata-chan, show them. Hinata took off the hood of her cloak, which made everyone gasp, except the lazy genius. Hinata smiled through her mask of a grin. Do you like it? She asked them. It feels better than the jacket I always wore because it makes me feel more free. Everyone else just stared at Hinata in shock. They saw her getting stronger and more sure of herself. But Hinata was acting more and more like Naruto. She seemed so happy and not worried about anything. Was Naruto really making such a big difference in her life? Kakashi finally shook his head. Okay, I guess we all know what our mission is, Kakashi said. When everyone nodded, he went on. Good. Asuma and I are in charge, but Naruto will be in charge when we find the targets. Everyone should be careful, right? As they nodded, Kakashi looked at Naruto with one eyebrow raised and then nodded again. Naruto got it right away and turned to look at the road ahead. He shouted, "Let's go!" with a lot of energy, and then he turned back to Kakashi. Good? Kakashi nodded. You have no idea how much I missed hearing that. Come on, let's go. The 9 ninjas ran into the forest and were not seen again. Kakuzu was getting less and less patient. Ni Yugito, the Kumo ninja, gave him and Hidan the Nibi Jinchuriki. Then, while they were waiting for their next orders, they went to find a bounty. Hidan kept complaining that this was a sin against Jashin and that they should kill an entire village of people for Jashin because he was so great. Kakuzu really wanted to rip Hidan's lips off, even if it would only make Hidan stop talking for a little while. Well, where the F# is your reward? I thought you knew where he was going. Will you please, shut up for 5 seconds? Kakuzu turned back to the trail left by the serial killer he was following. Excuse me, I just wanted to get back to that village we passed. There were so many good sacrifices there, all for Lord Jashin. When Hidan thought about killing so many innocent people, his eyes got cloudy. Whatever. Your stupid religion can wait until I get my money, can't it? Hidan was about to answer with the javelin he was carrying when Kakuzu suddenly ducked, and a kunai buried itself in Hidan's chest. He just looked at it, pulled it out of his pocket, and threw it away. Did we find the FR? No, you found trouble. 12 Narutos fell from the trees and surrounded the two with their swords drawn. The brothers looked at them. So, the 9 tails came to play. It looks like we get to do Itachi and Kisami's dirty work, don't we? I think that's the case. Lord Jashin will be happy. Hidan charged with his weapon while Kakuzu got ready to use a jutsu. He stabbed one of the Narutos, hoping it was the real one so he could get his blood. But his attack was blocked and an elbow hit him in the face. He felt several blades pierce him at once, but he just laughed and swung his weapon around, killing all the clones. Kakuzu had already killed the rest of them with his fire technique. Naruto sighed in some nearby trees. That's what I thought. Getting close to Hidan is a bad idea, and Kakuzu was able to keep me at a safe distance. Their fighting skills complement each other. Ino asked softly, "Are you done admiring them, Naruto?" Naruto just gave a head shake. "Okay. Me, Team Kakashi, and Hinata will take Kakuzu. Asuma, you guys have Hidan. Don't let him cut you with that weapon. If he does, he'll drink your blood, and if he gets hurt, you take all the damage. Keep him far away, and when you can, cut his head off. Then bury the head, blow it up, burn it to ashes." Shikamaru sighed. "This is very troublesome." Naruto nodded. "I agree. For now, we need to split them up, and I know how," he said. He and Hinata both took out a kunai. They both wrapped themselves in explosive tags and threw them at the members of the Akatsuki. The explosions tore apart the area where the immortal brothers were standing, forcing them to jump apart. The two teams were between them and pushing them back in almost no time. Fights will happen at the same time. Also, I'm having a hard time finding some of these people's jutsu, so I may not name all of Kakuzu's attacks, but I'll do my best. Team Asuma vs Hidan. Hidan landed on his feet and looked up just in time to see the blonde girl throw 3 shurikens at him. He was able to stop 2 of them, but the third one hit him in the neck. Well, that's just a pain. Hidan took out the shuriken and put it down. He ran at Ino, but the big kid with long hair and armor hit him away. He had made his arms bigger in some way, so he could attack from far away. Hidan grumbled under his breath because he was upset. If he wanted to beat these shinobi, he had to make one of them bleed. But it seemed like they were keeping him far away. He couldn't do anything about it because Kakuza could usually keep them busy for him. He shook his head and got ready to run forward again, but he couldn't. He looked down and saw that his shadow was connected to the kid with the lazy face's shadow. He was on his knees and making the rat sign with his hands. Hidan smiled. "You think that one little shadow will be enough to stop me?" Hidan started to struggle and was able to move a foot. As Ino and Choji joined him, Shikamaru cursed under his breath. "This guy is strong. I don't know how long I can hold on to him." Asuma fell out of a tree at that moment, with his trench knives ready. He used a wind jutsu to make it stronger, and then he used it to cut right through Hidan's neck. Shikamaru grunted at the feeling and then used his jutsu to make Hidan's body fall over. After a few seconds of rolling, his head stopped and he fell face down in the dirt. Ino looked at it, went away, and then there was the sound of someone throwing up. Choji just said, "That is messed up in a big way." Asuma went over to the head, which was yelling curses that were hard to hear. Hidan yelled at him when he turned it over. "You ugly bleep. Put my bleeping head back on my bleeping body right now. I mean it." Asuma looked at him and then pulled on a few tags that could blow up. He put them on Hidan's head while Choji and Shikamaru did the same to his body. Then they backed away from him, taking a weak-kneed Ino with them, and set off the tags. With his last curse, Hidan blew up into a million pieces that would later grow into a new kind of flower called the cursing carnation. Asuma sighed and turned to look the other way. That was too simple. I think Hidan is a weak freak who would die easily if he was up against a team. If you disagree, that's fine. But come on, the guy has no real jutsu, just the powers of his religion. He's really weak in Naruto's world. Team Kakashi, Hanyu vs Kakuzu. Kakuzu landed, skidding several feet back. He looked up and saw a cloaked Naruto, another cloaked figure, a girl with pink hair, a boy with white skin wearing clothes that screamed gay, and then the mother-in-law of bounties. Kakashi, the copycat ninja, is worth $20 million if he is brought to Iwa alive. Happy days, I'm going to be rich soon. Kakashi looked at Kakuzu, who was dancing in a strange way because he was happy. Everyone else just got huge drops of sweat in their hair. But Sai still had his stupid grin on. Answer. I'm not a big fan of Sai. As for the Akatsuki, forgive me, but some of them deserve to be made fun of. A bounty hunter and a religious fanatic? There's no way not to poke fun at them. As Naruto moved forward, he sighed. I'm sorry to ruin your fun, he said while lying through his teeth, but I think we have a fight to get through. Kakuzu quit dancing and gave a nod. Right. Let's get down to business. He suddenly used an earth jutsu to make a huge wave of dirt and rocks, but just as it was about to crush the Konoha ninjas, it stopped. The wave of earth was held in place by a sudden growth of vines that grew all over it. Naruto was sweating a little as he held his jutsu, which was keeping them from being crushed. Kakashi jumped over the wall and grabbed the Chidori. He drove it into Kakuzu's chest, then pulled it out and jumped back. With the help of Naruto's jutsu, the wall of earth slowly fell apart. Kakuzu was breathing hard and hunched over, but he looked up. Not bad. You got one. Now I have to find a new earth heart, don't I? Kakuzu ripped off his Akatsuki cloak, revealing 4 masks on his back, each with a symbol for fire, lightning, water, and air. As they watched, the water mask moved around and covered his heart before falling off. While this was happening, the fire and wind masks came out of his back and changed into strange black creatures. They all opened their mouths at the same time and started to build chakra. Naruto heard Hinata gasp next to him, and when he looked, he saw that she was using her Dokoshogun. Hinata yelled, "They're going to work together to attack." Naruto looked at everyone else. Take cover. As one, the masks used the power of all of them. With the help of the strong winds, they tore the area apart in a huge fire. When the fire was finally out, Kakuzu had a smirk on his face. But when he saw Naruto surrounded by red chakra, that smile went away. Naruto's eyes moved to the Kitsunegan and he looked up. But instead of X's or crosses, the pupils were in the shape of a starburst. Suddenly, Kakuzu couldn't move or look away from those eyes. He was frozen in place. Naruto laughed as he used his Dujutsu for the first time. Kakuzu's body suddenly moved, but not because he wanted it to. He started running around all of a sudden and waving his arms like a chicken. Then he did the "I'm a little teapot" dance. The Konoha ninja came out and looked at Naruto with a mix of awe and fear. But Hinata laughed because she thought it was funny. Naruto gave Hinata a smile because he was glad she was happy. But then he began to feel his chakra system being drained. Even with Kyuubi's huge abilities and using his chakra, this new stage of the Kitsunegan was hard work. He used Kakuzu to tell fire and wind to turn toward him. Well, Kakuza, I didn't expect to use this new power. I didn't even know about it. But it looks like this battle is going to be a lot easier than I thought. With that, Naruto had the 2 element masks use the same attack as before, destroying the lightning mask and heart. Then he made them kill themselves by turning on each other. Kakuzu was left with only his water heart, and he was in a lot of pain until Naruto helped him stand back up. When Naruto put out his hand, his Rasen Shuriken appeared, and the wind blades whistled. Naruto stuck out his hand and kept his eyes on Kakuzu. After he was done reading the Akatsuki's mind, he smiled. When you get to the underworld, say hi to Orochimaru for me. With a shout, Naruto ran forward. At the very last second, he let go of Kakuzu and hit him with the Rasen Shuriken. Kakuzu let out a scream, and all of a sudden, a dome of energy rushed into him. After the bomb went off, Kakuzu was lying in the middle of a crater. Naruto moved slowly toward them, heavily panting. He slid down the crater wall and looked at his opponent's dead body. He slowly nodded and looked back up at the other people. He sat down. He's more than dead. Not even Orochimaru or Kabuto could do anything with this body. Kakashi sat down next to him and looked at what was happening. Hinata looked at the body with her Dokoshogun, and when she saw what she saw, she let out a gasp. The man's whole network of chakras and nervous system had been torn apart. She told Naruto and the others about what she had found. Naruto turned around to look at the body. I wonder if my dad would have finished his jutsu if he knew it would be so dangerous. Maybe he wouldn't have gone any further than he did. Kakashi merely shrugged. Who knows? He might have thought of something else. As he helped pull Kakuzu's body out of the crater, Naruto just shrugged. He crawled out, but Hinata jumped on him. Her hood fell off, and she pulled down her face mask. Now, she took off his face armor and kissed him. He kissed her back, and neither of them noticed that Kakashi was laughing in a weird way, Sakura was blushing, and Sai had raised an eyebrow. When they finally broke apart, Naruto smiled at Hinata in a way that was a little strange. Well, it's not that I didn't like that, but what was that for? Hinata cuddled up to him and fell asleep. When you pushed me out of the way and I saw you in those flames, I was scared. I thought you were seriously hurt. I'm just glad you're safe and wanted to let you know. Naruto smiled even as he heard Ino yell, "What's going on here?" And Shikamaru say, "Troublesome." He slowly got to his feet and smiled as he still held Hinata close. Just like that, he said, "Let's go home." Sasuke moved out of the way of one of Killer Bee's swords, only to be kicked in the face. Even though Suigetsu was coming at him with Zabuza's guillotine sword, he stepped back. They found the Hachibi, and now they were fighting to bring him down. But it was hard because the man could fight with 8 swords at the same time. Suigetsu was stopped, so Sasuke got back on his feet. Suddenly, a bolt of electricity shot down the blade and shocked Suigetsu, knocking him back. Sasuke rushed forward, his Sharingan trying hard to find a weakness. Next to him, Jugo was starting to change into a demon. Killer Bee easily blocked their attacks and pushed them away. You guys are supposed to be Akatsuki, but if you ask me, this is pretty sad. Karen ran over to Sasuke and yelled, "Sasuke-kun." Like a fangirl. Suigetsu sat up and said, "Oh sure, help him." Sasuke shoved Karen out of the way and took out his katana. This katana was different from most because the blade was straight and there was no crossguard. It was easier to hide, but it also meant that his hand had no protection against a blade that could slide down and cut it. He moved forward, and his blade hit one of B's blades. Another one was brought around, but Suigetsu blocked it, and Jugo attacked with a big demon fist. The Jinchuriki jumped back, which made the 2 swordsmen fall, and Jugo's punch went right by his face. That's better. A little bit of teamwork. It looks like I'll have to take this up a notch. Suddenly, demonic chakra started pouring out of him as he yelled, "WHE." Behind him, the chakra turned into one long tail, and on his head, 2 huge horns grew. B went after Team Taka with more speed and anger. When a messenger came in to talk about his brother, the Jinchuriki Killer Bee, the Raikage was lifting weights. He dropped the weight, which broke the stand in front of him, and started giving orders right away. I want 3 teams of ninjas to go up there and help him. Tell Konoha that we're going to put an end to this business with Uchiha once and for all. And call a meeting of the 5 cages. We won't let Akatsuki do what they're doing. Within an hour, the hawk from Kumo came to Konoha and landed on the hawk tower. When the messenger got to Tsunade, she started giving her own orders. Shizune, send a message to Naruto and all the teams. Tell them to go north to Kumo right away and help protect their Jinchuriki. Let them know that Sasuke is one of the Akatsuki members involved. Have our fastest messenger hawk to Kumo and tell them we are helping and will deal with Sasuke. Go. Shizune sent the Anbu to every part of Konoha to find the Rookie 11 and their senseis. A messenger hawk flew over the north gate, where Naruto, Hinata, and Team Kakashi were waiting impatiently, less than 10 minutes later. Naruto was already very upset, and his eyes kept going back and forth between blue and red. Hinata reached out and put a gentle hand on his arm. Please, Naruto-kun, just wait. They'll get here. I know, but this is really important. Not only is Sasuke out there, but someone like me is in trouble, and I need to help him. Hinata got up and gave him a hug. We will, so don't worry. Team Guy came running up quickly after a shout. Guy and Lee ran in place, while Neji and Tenten were out of breath. The rest of Team Kurenai and Team Asuma joined them within minutes. Kakashi nodded. You all know the mission, so let's go. Keep your guard up, and remember that Sasuke used to live in this village, but he won't hesitate to kill you. Your survival is more important than his. Understand? As they all nodded, Naruto led them out of the gate and into the trees. Sasuke jumped back to avoid the giant tentacle that was coming at him. Their battle with Killer Bee was getting worse. The Jinchuriki let out the Biju in him, and he turned into a huge ox with 8 tentacles like an octopus. Suigetsu tried to stop him with a huge wave of water, but it turned into a puddle instead. Jugo had to heal him, so he turned back into a child to do it. Karen was knocked out by the wave of chakra that was released, which was too much for her chakra sensory jutsu to handle. He had to fight on his own now. In some ways, he liked it better this way. When Sasuke jumped back, he focused his chakra into his eyes. When he opened his eyes, his atom-shaped Mangekyo Sharingan was activated. He yelled, Amaterasu. With a single burst of chakra. Out of his eye, a burst of unholy black fire rushed and covered the giant Biju. It screamed in pain and dove into the water around it to try to put out the fire. But to no avail. After a few minutes, Sasuke was able to put out the fire. He found a badly burned killer bee who was sleeping. Slowly, Sasuke moved toward him and took off his cloak. He put Killer Bee in it and turned to Jugo, who was carrying Karen over his shoulder and Suigetsu under his arm. Sasuke nodded. Let's go. They didn't notice that 3 teams of Kumo ninja were following them. Naruto took a quick look at the other Konoha ninjas who were behind him. Hinata, Guy, and Lee were keeping up with the rest of the group so far, while the others were starting to fall behind. Naruto slowed down just enough to make it easier, but even for shinobi, they were still going fast. Hinata walked over to him. Naruto-kun. Are you really that worried? Naruto groaned. It's just that I promised Sakura Imouto I would do this and bring Sasuke back. Every day I don't keep this promise, I feel like I'm betraying my Nindo. I need to do this, or I might start to doubt everything I know and everything I am. Hinata nodded. I know what you mean, and I'll help you. He gave her a smile. Thanks, but I can't wait to see what he's going to say. The last time we fought, I was a human, but now he's going to face a Hanyu, actually, 2 of them. His smile faded. Hinata-chan, promise me that if you start to feel too much, you'll back off. I don't want to lose you. Hinata slowly nodded. I promise. Naruto smiled and looked forward once more. He could see the Kumo border in the distance. I'm coming for you, Sasuke. Madara was sitting with his back against the wall when Sasuke dragged the body over to him. I've done my part. Please excuse us now, Sasuke said. He and Jugo then turned to leave. Where do you want to go? Sasuke turned around to look at Madara again. Then they left. To heal our wounds and then to Konoha. Madara sighed. Sasuke, things might be harder than you think. I was afraid the rumors were true, and they were. Naruto is more than he seems to be. Naruto and the others got closer to Kumogakure no Sato slowly. 2.5 days had passed since they left Konoha. Now, they were deep in the land of a country that had tried to take them over not long ago. Naruto couldn't help but feel many eyes on him after the Fox Knight recognized him. He held Hinata's hand slowly, and she squeezed it back, making him feel better. A guide took them to the front of Reikage's house. Kumo was built in a range of mountains, so some of the buildings were just stuck on the sides of rock faces. One of them was the big house. There, the Reikage himself was waiting for them. Naruto was shocked by how big this guy was and how strong he looked under his open robe. The Reikage gave each of them a neutral nod of his head, but when he saw Naruto, he stopped. His eyes got dangerously narrow. What is he doing there? Kakashi stood still with his hands up. He is a ninja from Konoha, and we can't catch or stop Sasuke Uchiha without him. He is an S-level enemy of Kumo. If things had been different, he wouldn't have made it through our border alive. Naruto pulled away from Hinata slowly and stood in front of the Reikage. Under his cloak, he bowed his head. Reikage, I'm sorry for the people I killed, but I did what I had to do to protect my home and the people I care about. I have nothing against you or your country, but I did what I had to do. Can't you see that? The Reikage gave him a look and a shrug. I guess I can, and the fact that you're here shows that you have good intentions. Okay, I'll let you in for now. Just don't do anything funny. Naruto nodded, then took a step back and bowed. The Reikage bowed his head, then asked his assistant for a folder and gave it to Kakashi. We followed the Akatsuki to a ruin in the middle of a lake. Our ninja tried to save them on their own, but failed. Most of them died, and only a few got away. Be careful, because we've heard that Sasuke Uchiha has a very strong dojutsu. Kakashi nodded, then looked at the other people. Konoha, let's move out. The ninjas jumped off the boat right away and ran toward the broken-down castle. The Reikage looked at his helper. Gather up another force. I want to be ready in case they fail. Sasuke closed the door to his room and slowly walked to the mirror, his face showing a little bit of fear. He spilled a glass of water while talking with the others because he couldn't see it well. Sasuke was afraid that he was going blind like Itachi because his eyes were getting fuzzy. The more WH used the Mangekyu, the more he went blind. That wasn't right. Without it, how was he going to destroy Konoha? As Sasuke lay back on his bed, he sighed. Maybe they were just tired. He was tired after that fight with the Kumo ninja. He might have just needed a break. Sasuke nodded to himself and fell asleep slowly. Sasuke was standing in the middle of a plain. He saw a figure in a cloak coming toward him. This figure was dressed in a dull red cloak with a hood pulled up over its head. The lower part of its face was covered by an armored mask. The mask looked like a fox's face when it growled. The figure stopped and looked up all of a sudden. His eyes were red, and his pupils looked like strange black stars. Sasuke couldn't move at all of a sudden. Even though he told himself to stop, he found himself moving toward the figure. Slowly, the cloaked person took out metal claw blades from under his cloak. Only a foot away, Sasuke stopped. "Who are you? You don't recognize your old teammate?" "Sasuke Teme, I'm crushed." The figure slowly took off his mask, revealing Naruto Uzumaki's face. What is this? You can't be Naruto. He doesn't have a dojutsu." "Oh, but I do, and it's all because of you." "I'm coming, so get ready. We're going to finish this once and for all." Sasuke woke up with a start and was very sweaty. He looked around the room to reassure himself that he was where he was supposed to be and that the dream was just that. A dream. Sasuke slowly got up, shook his head, and walked away. He wasn't there. That's not how Naruto is. It was all in my head. Get your act together. He went to the bathroom and was pouring himself a glass of water when he heard a loud pounding on his door. He went to open it and saw a scared-looking Karen inside. "What is it, Karen?" I just got a sense of something, or two things, that are very powerful and coming this way." Sasuke looked at her and spoke in a low voice. "Are you sure?" Karen nodded. "Yes, they are almost exactly the same, and they are stronger than Killer Bee was." After a moment of looking at her, Sasuke grabbed his cloak and ran past her. He went to the top of the broken-down castle and looked around. After a few minutes, he started to feel what Karen had told him about. But he knew what it was. Kyuubi. But how can there be two? That would show that Kyuubi was split up in some way. Sasuke stayed where he was until he saw small figures jumping. He got down on his knees and took out a pair of binoculars. He looked at all the figures, but stopped when he saw a person in a dull red cloak. His heart dropped all of a sudden. He said in a whisper, "Naruto." He jumped up quickly and ran back down. He found the rest of Team Taka in the hall near the entrance. Suigetsu had finally gotten back to normal, but he was still a little off. Jugo was still a kid, and Sasuke wasn't 100% better. This is not a good idea. Naruto and the others stood in the water around the island with the broken castle on it. He looked at it slowly as Hinata looked around the building. She stopped because she wanted to focus on one spot. "I think I see him. There's an odd chakra signature a few floors up, but it's pretty low right now," she said, bringing her eyes down to the floor. On the other side of the door are 4 more people. One of them is Sasuke. Naruto and the others all gave a nod. Kakashi looked at Shikamaru, who took a quick look at the building. The genius gave a nod. "I think the least troublesome plan would be for teams Kurenai and Asuma to get the Jinchuriki. We'll need a diversion." Kakashi nodded. "Naruto, could you please distract me?" Naruto was happy. "Of course. It's what I do best." Naruto made a shadow clone, which held out its right hand and made a Rasengan. As teams Kurenai and Asuma left, Hinata gave Naruto a look that said, "Be careful," and the shadow clone rushed forward and drove his Rasengan into the doors that were made of strong materials. They opened up like a piece of tissue paper. When the door blew open, Sasuke and the others jumped back. As the smoke went away, they looked at the figure in the cloak. Sasuke knew right away what it was and threw a few kunai at Naruto. When they collided, he turned into smoke. The real Naruto stiffened and put his hand up to tell everyone to stop. He was looking at them. There are 3 of them. One has Zabuza's sword, another has demon growths that look like Sasuke's curse mark, and the third is a girl who doesn't seem to be anything special. We should split up to fight them. He started right away to point out the teams. Neji, Sakura, take the girl. Sai and Tenten, take the guy with the sword. Kakashi and Guy, take care of the demon boy. Lee and I will take Sasuke. Kakashi looked at Naruto. I get what you're saying, but shouldn't I or that guy help you? Naruto gave a head shake. That demon boy will have a lot more power than Sasuke. But Lee and I can handle him. Trust me. Kakashi and the other people slowly nodded. Naruto turned on the first level of his Kitsunegan. Let's rock. They ran in and split up to fight their different targets. Tenten swung her flail, which was attached to a karma axe, at Suigetsu right away. This made him jump back. Karen barely ducked out of the way of Sakura's chakra-boosted punch, and Neji hit her with a Juken. Guy tried to hit Jugo with his dynamic entry kick, but Jugo was too small. But Sasuke did nothing but stand there and look at the person in front of him. Just like in his dream, Naruto had taken his claws out of their sheaths. "Hello, Teme. Miss me? What is your name?" "Your name is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, and you are the Hanyu Fox Knight of Konoha. I'm going to drag your behind back there." Naruto yelled and jumped at Sasuke, who pulled out his sword. Kurenai and Asuma had finished looking over Killer Bee a few floors up, while the others made a circle around them. Hinata was looking down at the fight and nodded when she saw Naruto charge Sasuke. "I'm going to help them." Before anyone could stop her, she was gone, her cloak and tail going around a corner. Kurenai gave a sigh. She's getting to be a pain. Asuma just took a drag on his cigarette. "There's nothing we can do now. Take him to the rakeage." The rest of them nodded and left the building. Kurenai turned around to find out where the Hyuga Hanyu went. "Be careful, Hinata."
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.